Introduce yourself and congratulations on your job, and we're delighted you're here. So.
Thank you so much. I'm Sabrina Mansour. I'm director of the Massachusetts AI Hub. This is my 5th week on the job, so excited to be speaking here today and meeting all of you and talking to Paul a little bit about my background. I started working in AI a little over a decade ago, maybe a little more than that. Computer vision, when the GPUs from NVIDIA started going from gaming systems to being used in all the different applications that we see them being used today. And I've worked at Draper Laboratory. I worked in couple of robo-taxi companies, both in a technical capacity and then later in corporate strategy. So thank you for having me, Paul.
And share your website. Share your website. How do people stay in touch with you?
Well, it's the Massachusetts AI Hub. I actually don't know. I gotta look that up for future. So thank you.
Well, so one quick thing before we go to Chloe. Governor Healy last February 14th announced that they were going to have a $100 million effort on AI. That was the 15th of February, and that bill was passed last November here. Passed. California wanted to do 400. I don't think the California bill's passed. New York had a bill for 400 or 500. That's not passed here. So we've really got some fabulous leadership in Governor Healy's administration here, which led to your position. So
Thank you, but I passed. I didn't pass the first question. What's my URL? So, yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe. I'm currently the president of MIT Sloan AI/ML Club. And I'm doing my MBA degree at MIT Sloan. Before coming to MIT, I had 7 years of work experience in Goldman Sachs and then McKinsey. So I represent all the big evil guys out there and mostly focus on digital product strategy. On the side, I'm also a musician. I have a rock band going on. And that's when I realized firsthand how AI is empowering and changing a lot of the creative workflow. A lot of my friends are musicians, designers, their lives being impacted both good and bad. And then that kind of like pushed me to apply to this MBA program because I want to witness firsthand of how AI is reshaping our futures. Now, coming to MIT, I'm currently leading 2 initiatives. One is the AI Club that I mentioned, and we can talk about some of the amazing things that we've been doing and witnessing firsthand of how AI is shaping student organizations and the way we do things and create startup companies and then create our own work. And the second thing is I'm the co-founder of TNT. Some of my other co-founding friends are here as well. You can check out our website is tnt.so. We're the launchpad for MIT and Harvard AI entrepreneurs because we see this massive opportunity of how AI is reshaping the whole entrepreneurship playbook. I come from a non-technical background, obviously, but with the AI coding tools, I've built tools that have over 200,000 impressions overnight on LinkedIn. I've built tools that have 1,000 users in a week. And then this is just like a part of what we're capable out there. And really happy to be here and talk about how AI is empowering us and empowering Massachusetts. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jay Ash. I'm the CEO of the Massachusetts Competitive Partnership. We're a business association of 20 CEOs of the largest headquartered companies here in Massachusetts. I focus not on any of their individual needs. So if you have a Fidelity account or a Bank of America account, don't worry, I'm not advising them on that. Instead, I advise them on their collective interest in a stronger Massachusetts economy. I feel like I'm qualified to do that because I was formerly State Secretary of Housing and Economic Development here in the Commonwealth, and also served time as a city manager in my hometown of Chelsea. Speaking of Chelsea, I wish that my 7th grade science teacher, Mr. Perez, was in the audience because he told me that I would never amount to anything in science. And here I am at the Museum of Science. Tim, thank you for having me. I'm actually speaking, so I'm very excited to be here with everyone.
That's really great. Thank you, everyone. So we've got 4 questions. We'll kind of take 10, 15 minutes on. The first one is really around what's the potential of the state? What does the dream look like? And Sabrina, let's start with you, and we'll get other people here. Why even care about this, and what does success look like?
Well, number one, I was thinking about this on my way over here, is a utopian scenario where there is no congestion in the city streets on the way to the Museum of Science at 6:30 p.m. And you know, I think we actually could get there one day, right? There'll be no traffic lights, and the autonomous cars are going to speak to each other. But the dream for Massachusetts right now, right? I think in the immediate, right, it's just unlocking all of these, unlocking the impact that's possible, right now. There's so much like low-hanging fruit with what's out there. And I'm excited, you know, the state's really going to be supporting in a number of ways the ability for startups, the ecosystem to be able to do that. I'll talk a little more about the data commons that we're setting up, the compute resources we're going to be making available to help do that. So I think the impact that we can bring collectively, you know, detecting diseases and treating them much faster, as another example. We have so many strong sectors in Massachusetts, and we've got the really deep tech here to pair with the AI. So what's possible is incredible.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. Another joke. So every joke has a little bit of truth to it. And so when I was working for Governor Baker as his Secretary of Economic Development, many people would ask, what's the secret of the Massachusetts economic success story? And he would say it was about us helping to establish two great institutions. He was talking about Harvard and MIT, and then you wait 200 years. You think about the successes that have come out of Harvard and MIT and other colleges here in Boston and Cambridge and Worcester and Springfield and around the country. We think about what the possible is, and we dream about what the future can become. For AI here in Massachusetts, we think about what our role has been in the economy for the 300 plus years that Harvard has been around, and the role is to make the world a better place, to solve problems and to help people become better at what they do and better with each other. That would be the macro hope for AI here, would be for us to be able to cure cancer, would be for us to be able to come up with streets that have no traffic, would be to come up with ways of feeding more people, especially in places where it's difficult to grow crops. That would be the macro. On the micro level here in Massachusetts, we're talking about jobs, which is an interesting conversation to have in an AI conference, right? Most people will say that jobs are a threat. But for those of us who are involved in public policy here in Massachusetts, what we're thinking about is how do we get our share plus of the jobs that are going to be created as a result of AI, directly and indirectly. So economic vitality of our communities is at risk. Tim, it was great the way that you talked about how things are changing so rapidly. I see it every day in the companies that I talk with and the policy leaders that we discuss this. If we're not in a leading position, being in a trailing position is not a place that any of us want to be. So we need to continue to lead, and we believe that this has both macro and micro impacts.
Yeah, jobs, that's a great thing. Chloe, what do you see?
For me, the dream is to make Massachusetts the AI and entrepreneurship hub. And then coming from my perspective and background, I've seen firsthand amazing things that student groups and the communities here are able to build with AI and with entrepreneurship. And I'll give you 4 reasons, because I was a consultant, so I need to have bullet points. The first one is AI is the next wave. Like Jay said, it's a wave that we can't miss. Previously, like the past SaaS and tech and cloud wave brought people to SF, and now AI is the next thing. And I think Massachusetts, we're positioned at with unique value that can really capture this wave because we have the best talent. We have such a high concentration of talent, not just from MIT and Harvard, but also Northeastern has amazing hackers and AI developers. Like Babson, so many entrepreneurs, even like starting from undergrads. And then BU, BC, we have this unique ecosystem of education facilities of so much talent that are educated here. And that is something that it's unparalleled versus the other regions. And then secondly, I think like I mentioned earlier, AI is making entrepreneurship so much easier. That's why I think we should really capture the wave. Like established type companies, they're pretty much set whether the amount of investments and their base and what region. But with startups, this is a fresh new scene that Massachusetts have great opportunity to capture. For example, with TNT, earlier this year, we organized the first HBS versus MIT MBA hackathon.
First in the world.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then it's amazing because previously the word MBA and hackathon, like nobody would think these two group of people will have anything to do with each other. But with AI, we actually brought in over 150 students from both schools to use the AI coding tools and turn their business plans into over 40 working prototypes within a couple hours during the day. And that's the kind of things that will not be able to happen, say, like a year ago. AI is changing everything we know about entrepreneurship, from like doing market research to like building prototypes to go to market and marketing stuff. And then if Massachusetts can capture this wave to leverage AI, to have talents build with AI and build here with AI and skill up their companies here, it will be super powerful. And I think the last bullet point is on, we've already seen successful cases. Like a lot of the great AI startups are headquartered here. We have Suno AI, valued at $500 million and leading in the AI music creation scene. We have Liquid AI, it's built in MIT, one of the most famous foundation models, like getting on top of a lot of the news. We have Cursor, Codium Windsurf, the founders are all from MIT. And we do have what it takes to have the talent. We need to have the resources and a sustainable funnel to actually grow more talent, make them start their business here, and resources to help them scale up their business here.
That's great. So in terms of kind of metrics of jobs, startups, I think one other thing I would just add to the contribution, if you go back 25 years here in Cambridge, this wasn't the life science center. 25 years ago, it was in San Diego, San Francisco, and New Jersey. And through a bunch of coordination and some really important institutions here, this is definitively the global capital for that. So we do have confidence. We've seen it others here. So that's kind of the dream here. What are some of the other unique things we have here? We talked a little bit about the colleges, Jay. Are there other, how do we compete in this world where talent can go anywhere, capital can go anywhere?
Yeah, there's a lot of unique things that we have. I would say that, my organization recently released a report on incubators and accelerators. Those organizations like the Engine or Greentown Labs that help startups to form and grow. And what we found was that Massachusetts has approximately 100 incubators and accelerators. And those 100 incubators and accelerators are working with approximately 7,500 companies right now here. Those 7,500 companies are employing more than 20,000 people. What we have here is that those incubators and accelerators stretch across multiple technologies in multiple levels of entrepreneurship. And so one of the things that we talk about that's the strength of Massachusetts is the convergence that we have here of great technologies. Yesterday, we got to say hello at Lab Central unveiling of the AI BioHub in Cambridge, where two leading areas for Massachusetts economy, life sciences and AI, have found a marriage. The strength that we have here in Massachusetts is that we're a leader in so many different verticals and that we're so proximate to each other that the old joke is you can't help but walk through Cambridge or walk through Boston and have the person who's coming from the other direction leave something with you, a great idea about what it is to marry your strengths with their strengths. So I think that's an important thing. I won't take credit for this line. Senator Markey continues to talk about Massachusetts as the brain state. All of you have contributed to the brain state, the most educated state in the country. There's a reason why so many advances happen here in Massachusetts. So having the leading areas of innovation and entrepreneurship with really smart people around academic institutions that we've already talked about, being able to work individually, but also to be able to cluster together in an environment where the world is looking at what's happening in Boston and Cambridge and throughout Massachusetts, wants to be here, wants to see what exciting things we're doing, makes it really, gives us an advantage that few others have. The question is whether we can take full advantage of that, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as we go along. But the ability to convene in groups like this, I would venture to say that there aren't a lot of 7:30 on a Wednesday nights around the country, a group of 100+ people who have the inquisitive nature that they have in order to hear what is happening next. That's what makes everything that's possible available to us here in Massachusetts.
That's great. So we talked about colleges, proximity, strength in certain vertical industries. What other key ones?
I do want to make a shout out to the MGHPCC. So when you talk about responsible artificial intelligence, I think Massachusetts has the opportunity to be the leader here. We have the MGHPCC stands for the Massachusetts Green High Compute Center out in Holyoke, and it's solar.
Explain what that is.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
most
solar
people don't know.
powered. It is hydroelectric powered, and it's not something people talk a lot about or maybe are aware about, but AI is really hard on the environment. There's a lot of emissions associated with developing the models that everybody is using now. And so thinking about being responsible about AI, Massachusetts is absolutely leading in this regard. I also want to talk about the Data Commons Collaborative I mentioned, and this is something that came out of the Strategic Task Force for AI recommendations to Governor Healy, where we are going to be setting up in a matter of months here a data commons, so a kind of a library of sorts of data, both open source as well as data we can make available from the state in partnerships with industry. We can set up sandboxes for folks to come together and collaborate. We will be supporting startups. So we're making a major investment in that green compute to expand that and make it available to the startup ecosystem. So very excited to have that. And then what we mentioned about the accelerators and really thinking about the model of bringing in AI mentorship, right? Not every startup can afford to bring along or hire a data scientist, right? And then even if they do, that data scientist might be junior and needs mentorship themselves, right? On how to marry AI approaches into the tech, the hard tech, right? Like in life sciences. So bringing in that mentorship and making that available to the startups as well to help make folks successful.
Great. So the ones we had earlier, and then kind of data commons, some of these green power initiatives, quantum computing, I think, is in there as well.
We've got
You
a
wanna share
quantum
with it?
computer
Yeah.
in there as well, yes.
Hey, Chloe, you're not from this area. What impresses you about it? And remind us of what's unique about us.
I am very, very impressed about how it's like all the opportunities are so accessible here, and all the communities are so tight-knit. It's the first time for me to stay in the States for this long. I was born and raised in China, but then I know I wanted to do AI, and I started getting to know all these communities, and then here I am, like sharing a lot of my experience, and then this kind of magic I feel like wouldn't happen in the West Coast, where everything is just so much large-scale, scattered. The community here are so tight-knit and so high-growing, and I can give a few examples. Like with TNT, I mentioned before, we joke about this, but we envision to become the YC for Massachusetts. And it's not just us. We also have Sunday Club. They're the biggest AI hacker community here.
Teach your audience what Sunday Club is. That's another globally unique, incredible project.
It's a Sunday Club spelled with AI at the end. Yeah, I think your mic isn't working. It's the biggest AI hacker club around Massachusetts. Over 1,000 AI engineers and developers. And it's called Sunday Club because we gather together every single Sunday for 12 hours from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and we ship new AI products by the end of the day. That's the first community that I joined ever since I came to Boston. And I've seen how they've grown into this amazing community rooted in MIT and Harvard, but going way beyond, and then now like branching into human flourishing explorations, different topics with AI, consulting and all that, and it's a massive organization that has such huge potential. And there's a similar one originated from Harvard Hacker C House, which is a resident house, and then apparently it's new to people here, but I just learned that in SF, Hacker House is not a new concept. Like, these hackers, they live together and all they do is build products together. And actually, the Harvard C House is the first one in Boston to make that happen. And other than that, we also have Lunch Yard, which is focused on undergrads. It's also founded by some of my closest friends here. They are very famous among the Gen Z young undergrad community here, and then making AI and entrepreneurship something cool and viral in their own way. And we have the Kendall project as well, of course, marrying AI and technology with the different verticals that are so close to us. And this is the kind of resource that I feel like other regions don't have the luxury to enjoy.
I want to just highlight, so your club, Sunday Club, these are initiatives where people just started doing stuff. And the Sunday AI Club is, I mean, it's 70 to 80 MIT people all day long, 12 hours for, I think it's 50 or 60 Sundays now.
I spend too much time with them now.
Yeah, it's really amazing. So any other aspects of our region that we should make sure we're aware of, Jay, that's unique? Or
Well, certainly having leading industry here
Yeah.
is very important, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. But I get 20 CEOs of leading industries that I get to meet with regularly, and you can't underscore the importance of already having established companies that have both the resources to explore what the possibilities are and the need to do so as well. There's a great story about fear as a great motivator. The fear of losing to somebody else is important, and I see that around the table. So I have 5 board meetings a year, and I would tell you that it doesn't take more than a half an hour into a board meeting for somebody to talk about AI and for us to break off of what the agenda was, to talk about what is happening in our companies relative to AI, a real excitement about what the possibilities can be.
One of the things I hear a lot about is a comparison to San Francisco, which I find incredibly frustrating. I don't think this is a zero-sum game. Monet and, artists don't have a zero-sum game. There's lots of opportunity out there here. So I spent a year, every time I found someone who was in AI, staying in Boston, and saying, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in San Francisco? I can't believe how irresponsible you are to your career and family and not move to San Francisco. And, I probably did it 50 or 80 times here. And what's really interesting, you ask that question enough, and the market starts telling you why. Number one reason, you know what the number one reason I heard? Number one reason.
It's the Museum of Science being here.
Museum of Science, yeah, no. Number one reason is I have kids and I really care about the education system here. Number 2 reason here, my partner works in healthcare or life sciences, and this is a really important region here. Number 3 is I actually want to live in a manageable city where I can get to the ocean, the beach, downtown, and things here. So we really do have a lot of attributes that I think are very unique, that are defensible. We just don't tell anybody about it here. So that's on the opportunity side here. Chloe, what's some of the challenges? You bring a fresh perspective here, so let's start with you. What things are challenging, and what do we need to do better if we really want to get the aspirational goals Jay and others talked about?
I think first challenge is how do we retain talents? Like, there's no doubt like Boston, Massachusetts is the place where a lot of talents are educated. But then most of the time, like you mentioned, we see them graduate and then they move to West Coast to start their business or in their career. And I also just figured out that actually when YC started, they had 2 offices, one in Cambridge and one in Mountain View, California. But later when they grow, they actually closed the Boston office and then focus more on the West Coast side. So how do we retain more talents? What is the incentive and the ecosystem that we need to build here to make them, especially in their early stage of their career, wanting to stay here? I think it's the number one challenge that we need to solve. If you look at the successful startups on all the leaderboard out there, most of them are founded by alumni of Harvard, MIT, or the schools in our Massachusetts. How do we retain those talents and make them build and scale up here? I think it's the first challenge. And then the second one is, I still feel like a lot of the resources are fragmented around Massachusetts. We've talked about a lot of the great initiatives, both from government side to private sector to students. Is there a way that we can connect all the ecosystem players together and to co-create something that's more sustainable and here to stay? And is there a way that we can have the student community, the AI community getting more closely involved with the different verticals and the industry so that it will create like a sustainable cycle of having more talent staying here, creating more jobs, creating great businesses, and then build Massachusetts into the next applied AI hub?
So go a little further on Massachusetts being a way station, education, and you go to California. Why do you think that is?
I'm sorry, can you
Well,
repeat it?
why do so many people not stay? Is it because our expectations are too high? They should never stay to begin with, so we got the measurement wrong? You know, we don't own students here. You know, why should we think just because they're getting educated here, they need to stay here? Or are there other aspects of that?
A lot of my friends recently graduated, moved to the West Coast, and then tried to convince me to move. And then I think the one big reason is FOMO.
Yeah.
They can't really articulate why West Coast is better, but they always tell me, like, you should definitely come to San Francisco. There's events happening every day. There's so much investors, so much funding. And, like, this is the scene. This is the center of AI. Yeah. And I think, like, it's this fear of missing out that pushed people to move all the way to West Coast. But then, again, there are also amazing things growing here at Massachusetts right now. If we have a better way to coordinate all the resources and funding, to promote it better, to make it more accessible to talents, I feel like that would be a really great start.
Yeah. So, what do you think? What's the biggest challenge you see out there? You've been here for.
I mean, this is now a big part of my charter in the Massachusetts AI Hub, right? Yeah, I'm just thinking back the last 12 hours of my day. I met this morning with the Sunday AI founders, and they're really excited about the data commons, right? And so we're starting to connect some of these nodes, having regular roundtables with the VC community here, and saying, well, what is it about early stage that's really, preventing you from investing? Everyone is saying they go to California for the early stage investment, and so we're really trying to scratch under the surface there and figure out the why, right? Despite our access to the beach and everything as well. So. Yeah, I hope the folks when you raise questions also maybe pose your thoughts on what the reason is that we're losing that great talent. But it is something that we're focused on. The talent pipeline is a big lever in building the ecosystem. We have education programs that we've already articulated that we're starting this summer for students, not just in the Boston area, but across Massachusetts, right? We want to tap the broader ecosystem here and unlock that talent as well. And so education programs for teachers so they can build AI into their curriculum. We want to lead in that way and scale it nationally if we can from the pilot programs we're launching this summer.
So please keep the questions coming. I'm going to get them in a second here. Jay, what do you see the biggest challenges? We've talked about maybe awareness a little bit, or is it a problem? Maybe it's not a problem.
No, there's any number of challenges. I mean, let's acknowledge, we have to acknowledge in the room that there are challenges, and as much as we have very strong feelings about how Massachusetts can lead in this area, we have headwinds that we have to overcome. Some of them are about talent and the migration of talent. We need to do a better job of that. I think that part of our problem is that Massachusetts does have a reputation for being more conservative on the availability of money for startups, for businesses that are growing. And so we collectively need to work on that. Private sector, now that I'm in, and the public sector need to work on that. Keeping talent here is really important. But getting aside from that, there's a challenge out there that if we win, we will cement our place in the AI economy, and if we lose, somebody else will take those rights. And I think it's really around data, and you started to talk about it with the data commons. I've seen many of these types of efforts succeed or fail based upon the availability of data, and especially the availability of large amounts of data that startups can utilize in order to be able to work on whatever it is they're working. And managed and curated data is going to be a key to unlocking what the AI possibilities are. And I'm afraid that we in Massachusetts get to be very protective of data. I guess that's a good thing as well. I mean, in some respects, the organizations that are our leading organizations don't own the data, that they're hoping somebody will be able to utilize in order to make their sector stronger. And of course, I'm talking about healthcare now, where we all as consumers, as patients, own our own data. The hospitals don't own that data. So we need to figure out the data part, so I think that's an important part. Aligned with that is the regulatory environment. Somebody needs to figure out the regulatory environment and how to do it well, and I'm encouraged, and I'm also hopeful for you that you can figure that out. But, you know, regulation in Massachusetts, they kind of plod together over centuries. So getting to a point where we recognize that there is a race on and that we can't take forever to come up with how best to deal with the regulatory environment is really important. Helping companies, and this is a public role, but it's also a role for our private sector leaders, helping companies to understand and manage the risk is a challenge that we have, and if we do that better than others, we will receive the benefits of that. So there are aspects of, you know, keeping the talent here and getting the finances here, and then there are aspects about what are the entrepreneurs, what do the companies need in order really to take full advantage of that, and wherever that happens, you're going to have the best crack at being the place, not a place, and certainly not a no place. So I think we can work on that and prioritize that.
Please get questions coming in. There's probably 5 questions about, isn't the key problem affordable housing? Aren't they going to San Francisco because the housing's cheaper?
Let me jump on this one. Yesterday I met a gentleman, at this event, Jay referenced, so we opened up the Lab Central and C10 collaboration with the state in Kendall Square there. The gentleman said, I'm one of the startups, you know, I'm hoping to get space here, but I also have a second startup where I'm creating housing for all of the founders to come together. And is there something the state can invest in on that, you know? And I said, well, that's really, you know, really great idea. We should chat. So I think certainly it's a problem. It's a known problem folks are talking about. But yeah.
Yeah, it's Headwinds. So again, former Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. So I guess I own the problem as part of the connection to all that. Yeah, whoever sent that question in, it's absolutely is one of the issues of a number of issues that are headwinds. I do like to say, though, that I'd rather be in a place where people value the market versus not value the market. You know, supply and demand being what it is. People want to live here. I once said to Governor Baker, I can solve Boston's housing problems, but first you have to let me build a wall around Boston so that once I solve the problem, everybody who wants to come won't be able to get in. The fact of the matter is that people want to be here. And that supply and demand drives up the cost. We need to do more of that. I'll credit the Healy administration, Healy Driscoll administration, and the state legislature for making a historic effort in the last legislative session to adopt a major housing bond bill, the largest housing bond bill ever. We're driving policy on the local level in order to make housing more plentiful. For those of you who are concerned about the housing issue, the single most important thing that you can do to address the housing issue is to get your local city councils or selectmen to be more zoning friendly for housing production. And we're a strong local option state, so local control is what is directing what happens. So it's about housing, but it's other things as well, right? That we've joked about the challenges of transportation. We joke about the challenges with climate. There's a reason why the high-performing computer center is in Holyoke. It's because that's where the cheapest electricity is in Massachusetts, and so utility costs are a major issue. Having said that, look around you. You know, the collection of people that we have, there's some value in paying a premium, and that's what we have to constantly challenge ourselves to do. Is it worth the premium? We need to do more to reduce costs, but we also need to recognize that there is something special here in Massachusetts, and we're not racing to the bottom. We're not trying to be the cheapest place. What we're trying to be is the best place, and sometimes that creates costs and challenges along the way.
One of the interesting things on the challenge side that came up through the AI blueprint was the awareness. So over at Harvard, they have something called the iLab. It's innovation lab for all 26 universities. 2,000 students go through that a year. 1,000 of them never lived in the United States before, so they're international students. 95% of all those students think to do a startup, you have to go to California. 95% of them think that there's no unicorns or VC thing here. So there is why? Because that's what the international students knew about America before they got here. So one of the things that we're trying to at least do in the AI Blueprint, let's make sure that all 435,000 students who come here every single year at least get our region's commercial. Let's make sure they know about the Museum of Science and all these great programs here.
Yeah, Paul, it's one of the problems that we have here is that we don't brag enough, frankly.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this with various sectors of our economy that we need to stand up. And maybe it's the Puritan values, although anyone who's related to the Puritans, raise your hand. I'm not, so I can't say that it's related, directly related to that. But we need to celebrate what's happening on Sundays with Chloe as much as we celebrate what happens on Sundays in Foxborough. And so some of us, including my organization, some of us, including working with the administration, are trying to find other ways to tell the story and make sure that the world continues to know the special things that are happening here. And we think through that, more money will flow here, more people will want to stay here, more companies will continue to operate here.
Chloe, one of the questions that came in was, we studied the Flight Institute of the BU Young Alumni, found that the biggest reason that Boston lacks retention is there's not a strong 20-something community downtown. Do you sense that, or what's your sense for the 20-something community in downtown? Is it?
In SF?
Yeah.
There is definitely events happening every day that's related to AI or the tech space in general, and that's because they do have a lot of legacy big tech corporations headquartered there. But to be honest, like for me, I can't go out networking into these events every single day. So I feel like the number of events is not what's at stake here, but like Jay said, how do we market these amazing opportunities and communities? Do people actually know they exist? Like, I thought Sunday was a big name, but apparently to a lot of my friends, they're still very fresh and new. So I feel like there's to a certain number, like there's to a certain ceiling where like there's too many events out there and nobody has time to do every one of them. So I think Boston, we already have amazing things happening. Like at Microsoft, the Nerd Center, there's Gen AI meetup every single month. And then we have a lot of initiatives together. Like this event at MOS is amazing. It's not about the number of events or the quality of the events. I feel like it's about not having enough channels or awareness to what's happening here. And also addressing back to like the cost question. I'm new here, I'm not really familiar with like the living situation, but it's also not just about the cost itself, it's about the cost and benefit analysis. If they can't get great funding for their startups and their career here, or if they can get access to a lot of users and insights and good community here, then that's worth the cost. And I feel like Boston already have a lot of great things going on. It's the way that we promote these things. Sometimes my friend joke with me that within MIT, we're too not good at marketing and branding ourselves versus GSB, Stanford. They're all about like selling their startups and their concepts, because I think that's like the marketing and the branding aspect of things is what we need to catch up here. And that's why it's great that we're building more, and one of the ways is building more events. Like you mentioned, the first AI career fair happened last year. And then I know going into September, we'll have the Boston AI Week. We should keep having these events coming and then market it to the whole world to bring people to Boston and to let people know that things are happening here.
That's great. Great. Do you want to comment? Yeah.
Yeah, number one, Paul, I'm upset that you didn't ask me about the 20-something question.
Yeah.
So I take offense to that. But number two, again, it's about making sure that everyone understands what we have here in Boston, which is special compared to other places. I mean, you know, in Boston, you can live how you want to live and love who you want to love, and that has an appeal. Having said that, whoever asked the question, you're absolutely right, and we need to do a better job at recognizing that when you become the international city, you got to act like you're an international city. Boston is an international city. But sometimes we don't act like it. You know, shutting down nightclubs at 11 and 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning does make sense. Not having MBTA service that allows people to get back and forth at various hours is important. And the question about activity in the downtown, Boston's downtown was not built for that activity, and we're getting to a place where real estate conditions and market conditions in general are giving us the reason to reimagine what our downtowns can be. So I think there is hope. It's important that the young people in this audience, and not me, continue to hop upon that with those people who have an influence like me over the decisions that we make about spending and programming.
We've got 10 more minutes left here. Let's get real practical. Jay, you talked about talking to your local person on the housing thing here. In New York right now, was just 2 days ago, they have New York Tech Week. 3,000 events across the city here. We're organizing our first Boston AI Week, September 29th through October 3rd. We're going to have 100 where we have 40 companies signed up. So that's a very tactical one here. What other tactical things that people should be doing?
Again, I'm going to make a plug for the Data Commons. I think we're excited about the use cases that people will be able to be thinking about. So as we make state data available about transportation, construction, et cetera, think about what can be done. So that's number one, because that's coming very soon. And then number two, I think about what you can do personally in your companies, in your communities to drive AI adoption, getting folks comfortable with AI, mentoring folks if you already are comfortable with AI, to just continue to connect the nodes here within the community.
So I joked at the beginning about Mr. Perez saying I was going to amount to nothing in science in 7th grade. I then went on to study science in college, so there you go, Mr. Perez. When I ran into him, I didn't think it was important to tell him it was political science that I studied. The reason why I bring that up is that there's a lot of us who are involved in public policy and making things work. This is a bit of honesty with all of you, that quite don't understand what you're all talking about. And so it's important that you do all the things you do. Chloe, I'm very impressed with all that you've been talking about. It's also important that you take time to explain it to people who don't fully get it. And part of the explaining is to explain why it's important to the individual, that your neighbor, the person that you know, an elected leader may represent, or others. It's important to translate all the really wonderful things, all the smart things, all the advances that we're making. It's important to translate it into an English that everybody can understand. And when everybody understands it, then it's easier for arguments to be made to have more support for the industry. So, Paul, you've been kind enough to praise Massachusetts for what we're doing around AI support. It's really important that everybody in this room and others outside continue to communicate. The job's not done. So, dirty little secret about the way that things get funded in Massachusetts is things get approved for appropriation, and then you have to fight for the money afterwards. So we've approved $100 million for AI, but there's a fight to be had in the legislature and within the administration about how to raise that, how to direct that money so that good things can happen out of the AI hub. So it's important that you continue to talk to everybody and not talk to yourselves, but to talk to people who maybe don't quite get it. So that's an important thing. The other thing I'll tell you is that my companies, my large companies, they have a whole AI industrial complex. They don't need me to advise them on what's happening in AI. It's the medium-sized companies and especially the small companies that I'm really afraid for, and what happens in this dramatic transformation of this disruptive technology, disruptive times some multiple. Finding ways of working with those who need to know more about AI and can benefit but won't unless somebody shows up and helps them is really important, so that it continues to, as I talk about all the time, it continues to bang the drum there's a constant drumbeat about why this is important in Massachusetts. And it's important at Harvard, it's important in MIT, it's important in Kendall Square, but we got to make sure that it's important in Ball Square. We need to make sure that it's important in Bellingham Square and Chelsea and in Union Square and other places. So please consider how you translate all the things that we're really proud of. How do you translate it into an English that others can understand and get their arms around?
My thoughts on what would be practical in the next 4 months is to really double down on our unique value, unique asset, which is talent and verticals. So I think we should have way more like AI plus specific vertical programs. It will be coming from top. It could be coming from top down, or it could be coming from bottom up from each of all your organizations. It's not really hard to say, host a half-day event and invite some of the engineers or students from all these amazing schools and come here and then do a mini hackathon. Introduce them, like, what is the workflow? How do you run things? What are some potential challenges? And really seek innovation and inspiration from these students on what AI could help you with, like a mini company hackathon. And then because I see there's massive gap between like student opportunity and business opportunities out there, and I can give a few examples. On one hand, because currently TNT, we're running our summer accelerator, and I've seen a lot of startups in our cohort telling us like, oh, on our team, one of the co-founders is actually a doctor, and he can come on Thursday, Fridays because he's also working in like here and there. And then like it's amazing that these students can find co-founders and experts in such high level and all these industries because of the proximity we have to these verticals. But then on the other hand, like in the AI club, MIT AI club, there's another thing that we're running is because a lot of like the computer science students in undergrad programs come to us and tell us like, I want to find something to do for summer internship. Can you connect us with some startups or AI opportunities out there? And on the other hand, we coming from MBA, like the business programs, we have so many startups that want to hire like interns and undergrad that are technical. So even within the MIT community, where people think we're already so close to each other, there's this huge gap between talent and opportunity. Imagine if we're bringing up to a Massachusetts or a Boston level where we can efficiently connect students with these opportunities to explore and lead interesting initiatives of applying AI into your businesses. I think that would be a massive opportunity and a unique opportunity that only being here in Massachusetts can provide because of the proximity we have in both AI and the different industries.
And Chloe, to highlight what you were saying, Jay, you talked about data. We talked earlier about the Sunday Club, unbelievable tech talent there. I was there, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. You know, it's 70, 80, probably top 5% coders in the world. They've got this new technology. They want to make AI robots here. They're going to do something here, but they need a use case. They're technical people, but they don't have data. So they end up building a robot to order pizza. You know, and how much better to actually have a data set that actually had medical data that was deduped. So I think one thing that's really practical out there is that whatever domain you're in or whatever company you're in or whatever alumni group you're in is to help them demystify. What I see again and again is people think that AI is over there and the people who don't know AI is over here. And the overlap and the sweet spot is somebody who knows a little bit about AI and your domain. Accounting, finance, and that's the real scarcity that I see out there. Boston AI Week question, you can search online, anyone can have it, a group there. The events can be free or public, free or paid, public or private, small or large. It would be great to continue to blow that out. I know the governor, the Massachusetts, a lot of people involved in that, because people want to get together here. So you can find more information on that. A lot of questions here on the fear side. We should at least address some of that. Huge income disparities coming. These jobs are inevitable going away here. Are we too much optimist here? Jay, what are you hearing from your large companies here? Are we Pollyanna on the risk here, or is it just a high and a low that's coming, the curse and the dream?
So I'm not going to predict the future, but what I'm going to say is that because the question is outstanding, it's being asked over and over again, we ought to spend an awful lot of time talking about it. So there are opportunities today to act today so that those who get displaced will have opportunities for them tomorrow. And so that's what you're doing, what the governor and the legislature is committed to, what the business community wants to do. You know, the opportunities to bring in a talented workforce are really important, but our companies, my companies, feel an obligation to retrain the existing workforce and or think about what other opportunities exist. So acknowledging that that problem could exist, probably will exist, is the first part to then overcoming it. I can't predict. You know, it feels to me, in talking with my companies, it feels to me like this is about to happen, right? I mean, it feels like we're on the shore and we've seen the first ripples. You know, we've seen big tech companies, Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Dell, Salesforce, they're all laying off thousands of people in AI-related roles. It feels like it's the ripple. So some of us need to run towards the ocean, and others need to run away. Depending upon where you are in that responsibility, you need to act. It's up to supporting state government, it's up to supporting local government, it's up to supporting our academic institutions, and it's up to making sure that our businesses are thinking about what the impacts, the ethical applications include making sure that people who are going to be displaced have other opportunities.
So we're wrapping up here. So the unbelievable assets in the region, all these colleges, Harvard, MIT, unique things like Sunday Club, incredible talent in terms of PhD and knowledge here. We have some challenges going here, but it's really been a great pleasure to talk this discussion here. And I encourage everyone to do practical things here. It's not going to slow down. A year from now, it is going to be going faster. So we got to stop wishing that it slows down. We have to get used to being uncomfortable, and we got to start adapt and getting more people here. One of the things I think we're seeing is the leading two spots we see is the place you can see where the future is. First is software coding. And that's being automated, and the second one is military. Look what's going on in the Gaza war and the Ukraine war and what just happened. That's all happening because of AI. Some people estimate between 20 and 30% of all AI spending right now is done by the Chinese and US government right now for military usages. That's fundamentally transformed here. And I think if we watch those, we're going to start thinking about how that might come in the other sectors because it's really coming here. But let's thank our audience and panelists, thank you very much, and thank you for a great evening, everyone.